And yet he doesn't question their answer, but rather challenges them in a new way, saying that all people have been enslaved to sin, but that they are set free through this one member of the household, this one who can speak a word to let those who have been indentured, in a sense, as we remember kind of what slavery looked like, that there were slaves or servants in the household that could be set free with the word from the master or the master's children when they inherited the household. And so saying that they could be set free. And Jesus notes that these with whom he has journeyed can hear that word now. That they will be set free from that which has enslaved him. Now, I'm one of those people, and maybe you are a little bit like me, or maybe a lot like me. And when you hear this word sin, it's like, oh, there's just something about it that brings back things that maybe we heard as a child, or particular behaviors like not cussing, or other things that's what sin is about. Or perhaps it has become so weighted with hearing that we are not good enough, that we are so broken, that we shy away from this word. And it's one of those places where I have become much more a fan of those who have done theology here in the last 100 years, folks like Paul Tillich, who talk about estrangement, of not knowing God, of not knowing or being deeply connected with neighbor, of not knowing or falling away from who we are called to be. And I think, rightly so, Joseph Sittler adds on to this, saying, to be estranged or not know deeply creation. And so we are invited this Sunday as a reforming people to go deeper. Deeper in hearing the love poured out for us, but also then from that love, breaking through those things that estrange us, those things that pull us away or tear us down, and rather to go more deeply into knowing or trusting in the holy. Whatever name we give to that. God of Israel, Holy One, Father, Mother, Savior, Redeemer, Trust Bearer, Light, Energy, Hope, Love. We are invited to go more deeply into those metaphors, to connect, to reconnect. And then in the grace that is poured out from the holy, to build connections, to reach out to those with whom we interact. That we might know our neighbor deeply. How many times have people come into a sanctuary, sat down with people, had a nice pleasant conversation or exchanged little niceties, but not really found out what's happening in other people's lives? Where the passion is this day. Where the joy is. Where the hurts and the longings are. And it's easy, culturally, to do that. We can chalk it up to Minnesota nice, but I'm convinced that it's not just a Minnesota thing today. It's easier to share the quips on Facebook or the how are things going, fine thanks, move on, than rather go deeply. And as a reforming church, following in the ways of Jesus, I think we need to pay attention today that one of the places for reform is in building the deep connection with neighbor. To make sure they hear a word of grace in their life. Because there are times where God is going to seem distant or not present. But you're checking in. Your word of hope, your word of life may in that moment, on that given day, be God's presence for them. Maybe God's hand, God's heart reaching out. And from those places, are we willing to go more deeply into caring for the environment, for creation? Are we willing to challenge the status quo? Looking and counting the barrels of oil that we use, the pollution, the mercury that gets into our water and our air. Are we willing to draw close to the holy in all of creation? For all of these things, I want to pull us back to the Psalm. Psalm 46. Most of us have heard it over and over again, and we sang it today in one way. We're going to sing it again at the end of the service in a way that is a very free paraphrase by Martin Luther. But this psalm begins talking about the turmoil in creation. The roaring seas, the places where people experience the hurt, the longing, the brokenness within creation. And then it goes more deeply, more personally, into the people of Israel as they are struggling with their place. As a nation, what happens when war is all around them and enemies are right there at their door? What do they cling to? What do they look to? And then finally driving it home to hear a word of hope for them. With this God who does not abandon, but who reaches out in promise and in great love. That amidst the turmoil of the world, amidst the enemies at the gate, that there is a place for them. And I love the metaphor, and it fits so aptly here for us at Calvary. Saying that God is in the city, in this holy habitation.